Welcome to Transformation for a Brighter Future and Empowerment Through Education, where we delve into the stories and initiatives that makes a difference in our communities. I'm your host, Adil Duncan, and today we have a special episode that shines a light on a remarkable partnership between Gulf African Bank Foundation and Zakat Kenya. In this episode, we will explore the impact and insight of their educational sponsorship program, a collaboration that has transformed lives and empowered the next generation. We'll discuss how the initiative provides vital education opportunities to underprivileged students and the broader implications for our society. Joining us are two esteemed guests at this initiative's heart. First, we have Mr. Sulay Mohammed, Program Officer, all the way from Gulf African Bank Foundation, will share the bank's vision and commitment to community development through educational sponsorship. We are also honored to have Sheikh Hassan Makoa, Education Officer at Zakat Kenya. He will provide us with an on-the-ground perspective of how this program is changing lives and building a brighter future for many. Like I always say, education is often referred to as the key to success, and yet for many children in Kenya, access to quality education remains a significant challenge. This is where the partnership between Gulf African Bank Foundation and Zakat Kenya comes into play. Mr. Suhail Mohammed, you will kindly tell us a little bit about the sponsorship and how the initiative began. So I'll let you go first and explain to us a bit on how Gulf African Bank started this sponsorship package, and then how Gulf African Bank Foundation came on board to join hands with Zakat Kenya.
Okay, thank you for having me, and looking forward to an engaging discussion. So the foundation came into inception in 2016, May, but had been operating as a charity account since the bank started. So our charitable initiatives have been there since 2008, when the bank came into play and started its operations in the country. But we officially transitioned to a charitable foundation. It's a subsidy of the bank that purely deals with charitable donations and programs that are aimed to create sort of sustenance for poor communities across the country.
That's so interesting. I like the way that it has been explained into detail. So, Mr. Suel, another question to you. Maybe you can just explain to me on how does Gulf African Bank Foundation select their students? Before now we go to Zakat Kenya to understand how themselves select their own students.
I'll give you a quick fact or a couple of facts before I delve into that. Majority of our investment is in education. So you have three core programs as a foundation in education, health, and social programs. But almost 70 to 80% of our investments goes towards education. And the education is mainly for bright but needy students. Yeah. And anyone can gain access to the scholarship schemes that we offer at the foundation. So long as you're bright and you come from a needy background, anyone can gain access to the kitty. We take walk-ins, we take referrals from our branches, and anyone and everyone who feels like they need access to education, we are more than happy to assist where we can. Yeah. So we basically have an open door policy on education, but specified mainly through secondary education. And this is where our partnership with Zakat Kenya came into play. Was the 5 students that we've onboarded are all in high school. All from very underprivileged backgrounds, but all very academically proven, and all wanting the key intervention of gaining the quality education, but not necessarily having the resources to gain the education needs that they may want.
Well said, Mr. Suhail. Thank you for that explanation. Now to you, Sheikh Hassan Makoa, all the way from Zakat Kenya in Education Department. Now, I need you to explain to us how you do a background check for those who qualify for the education sponsorship through Zakat Kenya, and what prompted you to select Gulf African Bank Foundation to become one of your partners in the education docket?
Of course, at Zakat Kenya, there is a thorough and compassionate process to selecting students for sponsorship. We work closely with the local imams, local community leaders, the schools, and also the imams, so that we can get the best students to be sponsored. The other thing that is considered is the economic background of the families, whereby we are looking at the needy or the poor, and also the commitment of this student and the performance, and also the kind of institution that they are in. Like when I say the kind of institution, we go for public institutions, and also the potential is that we look also at the performance. The performance we take B minus and above. So once the cases have been verified, we go for selection and we go for payment or for the sponsorship, and we only cater for tuition fees.
MashaAllah, that is well and detailed explained. Now, there is something that Mr. Suhail said, touched about. You said anyone can walk in and request to get enrolled in the sponsorship docket for the education. Is that similar with you, Sheikh Hassan, with Zakat Kenya? Can anyone walk in and just request to be enrolled in the education docket bursary?
Yes, we have walk-ins, we have calls, we have referrals. There are other ways there are very many ways that people reach us, but we don't designate it to only the areas that I've mentioned. So the gap is wide, and the areas of assistance is wide, but the same process goes through, like verification, through the imams, through the community leaders, through schools. After that, when they meet the requirements, they meet the threshold, then they are sponsored.
Thank you for that, Sheikh Hassan. There's something I'd asked you, and I haven't heard you touch about it. I wanted to know, like, out of all the banks, you selected Gulf African Bank Foundation to become a partner in the education sponsorship. What moved you to go that direction, and what really inspired you to select them to become one of your partners in the education bursaries?
For this idea, we sell it to each and everyone. So we went to various banks, we approached various institutions like SACCOs and others, but selling our ideas, because our idea was we educate people about Zakat, collect, distribute, and then these are the avenues of distribution. So when we approached Gulf African Bank, they were the first bank to come on board on education, whereby we had education to the employees, and then after that we had education to their clients, and then after that they came in to say, now because you are dealing with education, let us cooperate or collaborate on this section. For us, we are going to take 5 students. Then we asked, we went into details on how the collaboration and the cooperation should be done. They said, we rely on your data because we have a very long data. We rely on your data. So for us, just give us 5 students from your data.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, that is awesome. Now back to you, Mr. Suhail. There's something that I need to understand from Gulf African Bank Foundation. You say that you focus mainly on students who are in high school, right? Just like we've heard from Zakat Kenya, they have a certain pass mark that you need to have for them to be able to consider you. Is that similar for you guys as well?
Yes, it is. And I think of the two organizations, perhaps we are more reputable, so we get way more referrals, way more inquiries. So the selection process is quite competitive.
Okay.
because we try to be as equitable as possible, because we hold ourselves to a higher level of accountability. Because the funds that we give to these students, we are custodians. We don't own the funds. We are custodians of the funds, so we try to be as equitable as possible. But in as much as we try that, we also want to give it to the best possible people who deserve it at that time. So to answer your question, the issue of academic background at times may supersede the social backgrounds, because there has to be a fine balance when you select who you want to give the bursary program to.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. For students transitioning from primary to high school, our cutoff is 350 marks.
Okay.
But you will find from the 350, we will get more than 100 applications for students who've gotten more than 350 marks and are in need.
Yeah.
You'll find a total orphan who has 390, 400 marks. See, that's a priority case.
Yeah, of course.
That's something that meets the criteria, and that's something you can't turn down. So, in as much as, again, we try to gear ourselves towards the cutoff point, we also have cases where we see potential and we invest in potential. In as much as it's on paper, we also invest in the people. We invest in the stories that we receive from parents, from guardians, from aunts and grandparents of students who, for one reason or another, weren't able to live up to the educational standards when they were in primary. And that's why we give them a bit of allocation. Once they step foot into high school, let's see the potential.
Okay.
And we invest in the futures. We don't invest in the present.
Yeah.
We don't invest in the past. We invest for the future.
Well said. Well said. I love that point. It's all about the future, not the present. Sheikh Hassan Makoa, back to you. I noticed with Zakat Kenya that you don't only focus with high school students. You also consider those who are going to university. And I've seen, I personally have seen some beneficiaries who are in university. Can you touch a bit about that, and how can someone enroll in that sponsorship for high school, for university? And as well, once he's done, Mr. Sule, you can maybe also shed a light to us if Gulf African Bank Foundation will consider taking that direction as well. We'll start with you, Sheikh Hassan.
Okay, thank you again. As I had told you earlier, that we sponsor students from high school. It was not only specifically to high school, so it's a point of correction. Not only high school, but from high school, which means we have high school, we have colleges, we have universities. So they are open to apply and they are open to get the sponsorship, but the same criteria remains of verification, performance, and the type of institution or the kind of institution that they are in, whereby we are basically on public institutions. Now on the colleges and the universities, we get a challenge of their fees are very high. Like you can get someone pursuing health science in the University of Nairobi or in Kenyatta University, and per semester is 330,000. And our budget is limited. So what we do is we try to make or to pay a fraction of it, because if we take the whole amount, then others will miss out to get the sponsorship. So for the colleges and universities, we come in to pay a fraction of it.
Maybe you can explain to us today.
Another point of correction. When I said the investment is, majority of our investment goes into high school students, we've also, since inception, invested in university education as well, and colleges. I'll take you through how we invest in university education. We prefer students who take courses that will benefit the society positively. Let me explain. A student doing education and a student doing a bachelor's degree in commerce, the effect to society is entirely different.
Yeah, true.
A teacher goes to educate students. A BCom graduate will get employed, they'll uplift their families. But we look at what the impact to society will have once we invest in the student themselves. That's why we limit ourselves to courses dealing in education, in health sciences, as he has said, students doing bachelor's degree in medicine and surgery, people doing pharmacy, nursing, any health related courses or any educational related courses where we know once you leave will impact tenfolds, hundredfolds of the education that we've invested in you. And it's also good to note that we invest in public education. We don't do self-sponsored programs. I think that's a point you'll find that cuts across many institutions that give sponsorship or grants to individuals because of the cost element. The cost element and the investment element, in as much as you want quantity, you also want quality.
Same time.
So you have to balance.
Yeah.
Quantity is also quite important, because if you're giving 150,000, for example, per year to one student, that's equivalent for 3 students in high school for their annual fee.
Yeah.
So 1 for 3, I'll take 3
Of
over the 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and a college, we also sponsor college students who also do. It's almost exclusive to students at the Kenya Medical Training College, KMTC. Those who do nursing, laboratory sciences, clinical officers. Because once they finish their diplomas, they get employed.
Yeah.
So we get more nurses, we get more COs, we get more lab techs. So we also invest a lot of our funds in students doing medical related diploma courses.
Mashallah. Well, I love the way both of them are explaining. I love how detailed it is. So I believe our viewers, you can see, it's not hard to understand from Gulf African Bank Foundation and Zakat Kenya how the steps and the procedures that one is required to be able to get into their sponsorship program. Now, I'll go back to you, Sheikh Hassan, regarding the education still. Now, this is just basically, you can just maybe take a few minutes just to highlight any success story that so far the sponsorship or the partnership has brought on board, or that you've seen the effect towards the students who Zakat Kenya have been able to sponsor through Gulf African Bank Foundation. Just in brief.
Okay. The list, as I mentioned earlier, we have a very long list. And this list contains people, students who have qualified, who are in need, but our capability is minimal. Our funds are limited. So when Gulf African Bank came on board, we just try to slash from the list so that they can carry the luggage a bit, because this one is a problem that is affecting the society. So we are doing this on behalf of the society. So one of the success stories is one of the students, a young girl called Halima Zamzam from Korogosho. There's a time she stayed home for almost a full term without going to school because she could not access the fees. And the fees that time was only 15,000 per term. So the parent, because they could not afford that to pay for their school fees, they looked for an option. Let her attend to a local school so that if the funds will be got, she will go back to to where she was. So she stayed home for that period. Now when Gulf African came in, we forward that case to them, and they managed to come up and assist her. So it's a successful story because she's now continuing with her education. There's another one. There's someone from Pipeline. He could walk on foot from Pipeline to Dar Arkam Kileleshwa to do what? To just collect the check for the student. So you see, this one is a community problem whereby it needs a community solution. Now the stories are very many, but we are very happy to have Gulf African on board, and also we are also requesting for others to come on board.
Mashallah, mashallah. This is so incredible. I didn't know much about this. I never knew about someone who would walk just to come and collect a check. Well, I believe our viewers, you can see the impact that the partnership has already brought on the table. Mr. Suhail, back to you. This is in regards of Gulf African Bank Foundation. Are we likely to see the number increase of sponsorship between you and Zakat Kenya in terms of the number of students who will be enrolled into your program through high school? And are we likely to see now maybe Zakat Kenya bringing those who have enrolled or have applied to be sponsored through university? Is there a possibility of Gulf African Bank Foundation coming again to maybe say, okay, now let's now start supporting those who have been enlisted to join the university or the colleges, but now you're going to support them. You're going to support Zakat Kenya. Zakat Kenya is going to benefit through you. Is there a likelihood to see that happening anytime soon?
I think, judging by the success of onboarding of the students, a point to note is we invest in organizations that we believe share the same ethos as us.
Nice.
If there was a point of divergence at any given point, then this partnership would not have happened. So, seeing as we are the investors, we saw the 5 cases. I went through all the 5 cases. I think you'll be pleased to note that 2 of those cases are fully sponsored students. There's only 3 that are getting 75% of the sponsorship amount, only 15% for perhaps Zakat Kenya or their guardians or whoever is taking care of the kids to raise, which we think is a good amount to, because we're sharing the burden.
Yeah.
So let's do 75, you do 15.
Okay.
But for the 2 cases where we saw it's quite strenuous, then we did the 100% donation for the students. But in terms of future partnerships, we are open. From the 5 that we've had, there are cases that we found are appealing. You'll also take note of this. Once they all went through our process as well. They went through Zakat Kenya's process, and it was also taken through our process.
That means the verification?
Yes,
okay.
Because they did fill the forms, they provided supporting documents, we appraised them as any normal application we would. If they did not meet our criteria, we would have taken them back, and we would have said, bring us cases where we feel our investment will be worthy.
Okay.
So we are open to partnerships with like-minded organizations that also cater towards the same program that we do.
Okay. Mashallah. All right, I want to take you back a little bit. There's something you've said, and I've touched on it, and I want you to maybe explain to me a little bit deeper. You say there are 2 who are on full sponsorship, that's 100%, and then there are 3 who are partially, so that's 75%. What is it that you pinpointed exactly that these 2 require full sponsorship? And when you say 100%, did you mean we know fee is paid per term. Now, are these ones going to be paid for the whole year, or you're still going on a termly basis?
For our own internal processes, fees are paid termly, and they're paid termly mainly to monitor performance of the students. In as much as you're onboarded and we've committed funds for you, we also have to make sure that your performance is up to our standards. True. So the investment, the return on investment has to match the investment itself.
Most definitely.
So we usually do it on a termly basis so that we monitor performance of the students. And for the two students in particular was the where we saw that they needed the more than the other ones was for the two complete orphans. So they don't have a mother, they don't have a father. Okay. So see, from our appraisal process, someone like that, they'll definitely get more consideration as opposed to someone who has a single parent. So that's what drove our investment for the two to be at 100% and for the other ones to be at about 75%. And the fees cover tuition fees, exclusively for tuition fees. We don't cover anything more than that.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Suhail. Now back to Sheikh Hassan as we are about to wind up. I need to understand, Gulf African Bank Foundation have totally explained how their process is and how they pay the fee. Now, when it comes to Zakat Kenya, does Zakat Kenya pay on a termly basis, or does Zakat Kenya pay yearly? And since Zakat Kenya has been doing this on its own, now, alhamdulillah, you've gotten a partner. Are you going to be splitting, what do you say, how can I say it? Are you going to be splitting the bill, or the fee, let me say the fee, into half, 50-50, or will Zakat Kenya continue now to support and to pay fee like they used to do initially before?
Okay, the process is still the same. For us, still applies. We have a termly contract. So we don't take a whole case for the whole year because we want to monitor the performance. So the contract is per term. Term ends, we review the contract by looking at the performance. If the performance is at par by hours or above, we continue the sponsorship. But if it's below, we don't sponsor at that time until you improve and come back to our threshold that was set. So it same applies with is a contract on a termly basis.
Mashallah. Now, still to you, Sheikh Hassan, I believe you guys receive a lot of cases on a daily basis. This is in regards to education, and I believe you also have other initiatives that Zakat Kenya is doing, right? So how would you encourage, or what would your message be outside there for organization to come on board, and or even individuals? What would your message be to them so that they can come on board and try and release part of the pressure that Zakat Kenya is feeling at the moment and help to achieve the noble cause that Zakat Kenya is doing?
Absolutely. We have a very big burden. I remember at the beginning of the year, we had 3 kinds of cases. 1, we have the continuing cases. 2, we had the Form 1 cases, and then 3, we had the new cases. And we had limited funds. So we had to do it in portions. Like, let us deal with the continuing cases, then we shall come to Form 1 cases because they want to join, and then we come to the other cases. So with this, it shows that the data and the list is very long. So for us as Zakat Kenya, we are open, we are free. Anyone can access our data and do the sponsorship. The way Gulf African Bank Foundation came in, we only slashed a bit of it and gave them what they needed. So anyone who is outside there, who is listening to us, who would like to continue supporting any of the students, he is welcome. Like currently, we are working with Mobi Tires. Mobi Tires, they are paying their zakat through sponsoring one student. He's doing, he's a surgeon, he's studying for surgeon, and he's in the 5th year. So they have been doing that for the past 5 years. So this one is an improvement, and we would like others to come in. And also we have CAMP, Kenya Association of Muslim Medical Professionals. They have come in. They are taking on the health education sciences, because as I had briefed you earlier, they are very expensive. But to us, our funds are limited. So what we do, we release these to them. But what do they want from us? They say, because you have the mechanism, you have the channel, you do the verification for us, and then us, we shall do the payment. So anyone who is willing, let him come. Any organization, we are not only confined. This one is a community problem, which means it needs a community solution. Yeah. So anyone who is willing, be it an individual, be it an institution, be it a company, just come on board. We have the data, we have the list, and take cut the cake from where you can. If you want 2, you want 3, you want 1, you are free, as long as we abide by the regulations and the guidelines that have been set.
MashaAllah, that is well explained and into details. Our viewers, I think because of time, we are going to wind up. But before we leave, a quick one to Gulf African Bank Foundation, Mr. Suhail Mohammed and Sheikh Hassan Makoa. This is in regard to future plans. What can we say about the future in regards to this partnership?
I think for the future, it looks prosperous. It looks like something that is exciting, because we've done this for a long time, more than 10 years, and our investments have borne fruits. So it's something that we're not new in. It's a field that we have had constant success in, constant investment in, and we've seen it with the impact that it had to the societies. Just a quick statistic I'll throw. More than 2,000 students have gained access to education from the foundation. We've invested more than 200 million in education alone.
MashaAllah.
And so for the future, we are more than excited for the future, because it gives us impetus to see that this investment, these interventions that we are giving to society, it bears fruit. Now we have doctors in the field because of the investment. We have nurses, we have teachers, we have countless more cases of students whose lives have changed because of the intervention that we provided for them. The level of quality of education that they accessed through the investment. So for us, we remain steadfast in our investment, and for any organization, give in case in point Zakat Kenya, the partnership has started, and we hope that as time moves on, as funds also grow, because I think one thing you can notice is there's always a constraint in funds. So creating sustainability for these funds to make sure that these students can still gain access to education for years to come is something to look into, to look forward to. Is there investment mechanisms that a fund can have to make sure that the fund can grow itself and can also sustain new students, continuing students, new cases. That's also something that is prudent to have when managing the funds. Commitment to the students. Do you have enough money to cater for this particular student? If you don't, then the education might be cut short 2 years down the line.
Which is very
Yeah. So if it's 4 years, do you have the funds for the 4 years before you commit to onboarding the student?
Yeah.
If it's for 6 years, just make sure the set amount is committed for that specific student, so that on a rainy day, you never know when the funds can stop. We had this case during the COVID time.
Probably.
Funds were almost depleted because wherever it is you get the donations from, businesses aren't working,
Yeah, true.
profits aren't as it was before.
Yeah.
So no one is willing to hand out money or give out funds the way they would before.
Yeah.
And that adjustment to where we are now was a learning curve. Because by then, no one was willing to invest as much as perhaps they would now or they were before. So just ensuring that we are sustainable to sort of save for a rainy day is something that's quite crucial when it comes to investing in education and creating these interventions for society.
All right. Totally makes sense. Sheikh Hassan.
Okay, the future looks bright, and our main objective is through education. First, you educate someone so that he can perform that action. Like how Gulf came in is through the education on Zakat. You know, what we are using, we as Zakat Kenya, they are the Zakat funds.
Okay. Yeah.
And Zakat funds, Zakat being a pillar of Islam, is an obligation for you to pay or for you to give. So for us, we are just acting as a bridge between the giver and the recipient. So we want to educate more people so that they can come on board. They can be aware that this is an obligation whereby they have to do it. The last one is, you know, like the way I've said about the funds, you know, it goes with the tyranny of numbers. When many people give, we get more funds. When very few people give, the funds are less. The way you said during COVID, people in scenarios that were not good for them, so it made people not to give a lot. So my challenge is, as I've said earlier, this one is a community problem that needs a community solution. And the solution will only come after people being educated. Let Muslims learn what zakah is. Then after that, they will get that this zakah is an obligation. Let me do it. Look at yourself. How much sadaqah do you give? When you count on the part of sadaqah, you will get that very many people give a lot of sadaqah, but very few people give zakah. But zakah is an obligation, and sadaqah is charity, is recommended. So our future plan is we want to educate more people. Apart from Gulf, we want other institutions to get knowledge on zakah. We want other corporates, we want other areas, we want individuals also to know about zakah, so that now when they have the knowledge, they have understood that zakah is an obligation, now they will give, and we shall get more funds for the kitty of education, we shall get more funds for the kitty of medical and others. Lastly, I leave the listeners, the viewers, with this mathematical question. How many Muslims are in Kenya? We may get that we are 15 million Muslims. Assume only 40% of them pay their zakah, which is around 6 million. 6 million, if each one of them pays their zakah of only 2,500 shillings, we shall get 15 billion. What can 15 billion bring? Will you not have education fund to cater for very many students? The answer is yes, we shall have a very big pool, and we shall be sure that we are able to cater for this sponsorship for the next 6 years, for the next 8 years, or for the next a given period. So my urge and my request, which is a polite and kind request, let us pay our zakah and let us bring it together so that it can bring a difference. Don't ignore, don't assume the 2,500 shillings that you have in someone's life, it can make a difference.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Well, Sheikh Hassan has said it all, and I'm glad for our guest. So we have come to the end of our show for today. Thank you both for sharing these powerful insights and stories. The partnership between Gulf African Bank Foundation and Zakat Kenya has really been helpful and educative. Mr. Sulay Mohammed, thank you so much for coming. I know it was a short period, but I'm really grateful that you created time. Sheikh Hassan Makoa, thank you very much for creating time for us also as well. I know you had other things to do, and we look forward to have another session like this one in future. And also this time around, maybe we'll bring the students who have benefited through the partnership program. So to all our guests and to all our viewers, I'm so glad. Thank you for also creating time for us and for watching. And I want to encourage each and every person, kindly come and volunteer in your giving, in your sadaqah, and remember, pay your zakat on time so that we may be able to help as many people as we can in the community. Until next time, I've been your host, Adil Duncan, and continue empowering the community. Thank you.